Macarons have a reputation for being almost impossible to make yourself, but I promise with this recipe you'll nail it. Welcome to Recipes by Karina, where I show you how to make classic and simply delicious recipes. Make sure to subscribe for a new video each week. To start off our macarons, we'll need a medium-sized mixing bowl. Pour into the bowl 3/4 cup of ground almonds, almond meal or almond flour. These most of the time are exactly the same thing. More specifically, you want blanched almonds, which will be a pale yellow shade instead of a deeper colour, which means the skins have been removed. You can ground whole almonds if you would like for this recipe, but I always have ground almonds on hand for baking. If you would like the full recipe for these macarons, it will be on my website, as well as the full measurements in the description box below. I'll also have a link for the equipment you'll need for this recipe, including my favourite piping bags and piping tips for macarons. You're also going to need 1 cup or 125 grams of icing sugar, powdered sugar or confectioner's sugar. These are all the same thing, just again different names. You'll notice I give the ingredient measurements in metric and imperial, grams, cups and ounces, because I know everyone uses different ways of measuring. Here is the first tip I have for you when making macarons. You need to add the sugar and ground almonds to a food processor. This, as well as removing clumps, will grind down any large pieces of almond that may have made its way into the bag. It's also a super easy way of mixing the dry ingredients together. If you don't have a food processor and you want to make macarons, I would strongly advise you to get one. Mini ones work perfectly, they're not too pricey and so versatile for making sauces, emulsions and finely chopping things. If you don't want to get one, the other option is using a finely meshed sieve, but you may still run into problems not getting the right texture with this. Pulse the machine a few times, just enough until you can see the sugar and almonds are combined. Remove the lid and pour the ingredients back into the bowl. Set to the side while we prep the egg whites. One great thing about macarons is they're naturally gluten-free and you can also easily make a dairy-free filling. So if you're looking for something that can fill those two food restrictions, macarons are always a favourite choice. In 2 bowls, divide 2 whole eggs, placing the yolks into one and the egg whites into another. I find it easiest to switch the egg between the 2 sides of shell to divide it, but if you're not too great at this, crack the egg into the larger bowl, then simply scoop out the egg yolks with your hands. As long as you're gentle, they shouldn't break apart. Alternatively, you can use an egg separator. There are a ton of different ones, but they do work well. Cover your egg yolks and place them into the fridge to use later. Either add them to scrambled eggs or you can use lemon curd, which is a perfect filling for your macarons. Pour your egg whites into a large bowl if you're using a hand mixer or the bowl of your stand mixer. Making a meringue by hand is very difficult and time consuming, so I would recommend to use some kind of machine for this. Start to beat the egg whites on medium or high speed until they get frothy, usually about 30 seconds or so. Add a large pinch of salt, about half a teaspoon's worth, to the egg whites and continue to beat on a high speed until they become opaque, basically until you can no longer see through them. We're going to make a meringue here, a mixture of egg whites and sugar whipped together. Measure out 1/4 cup or 50 grams of white granulated sugar. While your mixer is on high speed, slowly start to sprinkle in the sugar. We don't want to add it all at once, as this can cause the egg whites to collapse. As the sugar is incorporated, you should start to see the egg whites become whiter, fluffier and shinier. These are all great signs. After a few minutes, when your meringue is at the soft peak stage, this means when you remove the beater from the egg whites, a peak forms, but the tip falls back down. Add your flavourings and colours. For this recipe, I'm sharing with you how to make strawberry macarons, but you could easily change that to lemon, orange, almond, mint or anything else. I'm adding a teaspoon of strawberry essence and a few drops of red food colouring. Important tip with colouring is stick to gels. These are stronger in colour, don't fade while baking, and won't change the consistency. Beat again on high speed for 2 to 4 minutes until your meringue is at the stiff peak stage. This peak should form when removing the beater, but the tip shouldn't fall down. Also, you should be able to tip the bowl on top of your head or just upside down without any falling out. Now is the important part, the macaronage. This is incorporating the dry ingredients into the egg whites perfectly to make macarons. Sounds so simple, but this is probably the most important part of making macarons and where most get it wrong. Start by adding about 1/3 or half of your egg whites to the dry ingredients and mix to incorporate. You don't need to be too gentle here, as we actually want to beat some of the air out of the egg whites. Just make sure you're mixing everything evenly. When you've incorporated the egg white, add the remaining and continue mixing, getting all the dry bits at the bottom of the bowl and on the sides. You'll notice at this point the mixture is quite thick. What we're trying to do here is continue mixing, removing the air from the egg whites. This causes the consistency of the batter to thin down. The hard part is getting it perfect. Overmix and you'll need to start again. Check the consistency every 3 to 4 mixes. You'll see here when falling off the spoon it kind of comes down in clumps. This is too thick, we want it to mimic the classic flowing lava. But what does that actually mean? Flowing lava isn't a great way of describing something, as most of us don't know exactly what that looks like, but let me show you. You want to be able to make figure eights with the mixture. You want it to slowly flow off the spoon but not break apart. This needs the smallest amount more mixing as it keeps breaking. A few more mixes and it's perfect. The only way you're going to get macarons perfect is by making them a few times. I've had my fair share of failed batches. Have this video open when you're doing the final mix and check the consistencies match up. That's my best advice for you. Scoop your macaron batter into a piping bag fitted with a round tip. I'm using a Wilton number 12 tip, but anything that's about 1/4 inch or 1/2 centimeter will work. Pipe your macarons onto a lined baking sheet. It's important not to use any grease with these. To stop the macarons moving around on the tray, pipe a dot onto each corner to stick the paper down. These fancy sheets you can buy that have pre-drawn circles to get your macarons even. Of course you can use these, but it's pretty easy to get them right without. Pipe your macarons in lines about 2 to 3 centimeters or 1 inch apart. You want them to be about the same in diameter, 2 to 3 centimeters or 1 inch, as they will spread. Pipe straight down to get an even circle. When it gets to the right size, stop piping and quickly pull up. There will be a small tip on the macaron, but this will fall down as they settle. Next important tip when making macarons is to tap the tray. Don't forget this step. Wrap it on the work surface about 5 times. This helps remove any air bubbles as well as spreads the macarons. Let them rest at room temperature for about 30 minutes or until you can touch the tops without sticking. This means it has formed a skin. Skip this step and your macarons are far more likely to split at the top and not have perfect feet. Place your macarons in the center of a preheated 150°C or 300°F oven for 15 minutes and don't open the door during this time. Let them cool completely before filling. They should peel easily off the baking sheet. There are many different fillings you can choose for your macarons depending on what flavour they are: buttercream, ganache, lemon curd, or even a fruit preserve. I'm sharing with you how to make a simple and easy vanilla buttercream which will pair perfectly with these strawberry macarons. In a large bowl if you're using a hand mixer or a bowl of your stand mixer, add 1/2 cup or 110 grams of room temperature butter. With your mixer on high speed, beat the butter for about 5 minutes or until it has doubled in volume and is much paler in colour. Add your powdered sugar in thirds. You'll need 1.5 cups or 190 grams and beat well until it is fully incorporated. Lastly, add about half a teaspoon of vanilla extract and beat for another few minutes. Pipe about a tablespoon's worth of buttercream or any other filling you've decided to use onto half of your macarons and top with the second half, pressing down until the buttercream comes to the edge. These are best the day after you make them, but there are no rules. Please let me know any other flavours you would like to see a recipe of in the comments below, and remember to subscribe for a new video each week. Thank you for watching, and I will see you on my next video.